Okay, we're up to Siman Reish Lamed Vav Seif Beis. We're working through the halachas of Krish Mashel Arvis. Halacha Beis. Ein lesaper bein geula de Arvis de Tefillah. You're not allowed to talk between the geula of Arvis and Tefillah, i.e. Baruch Hashem Goal Yisrael. Va'af hanagin lo'ma yudches psukim v'yiru einenu. And even those who have the custom, nowadays we'll see it's mostly in Chutz La'aretz, who have the custom to say the Yudches Psukim and Yiru Einenu, which we call Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen V'Amen, Ein lahafsik bein Yiru Einenu L'Tefillah. You should not be mafsik between Yiru Einenu, which comes after Hashkivenu, and Tefillah. Umiyu, so continues the Mechaber, Ma shem machriz shliach tzibur Rosh Chodesh bein Kaddish L'Tefillah Arvis Le'haveh Hefsik. If it's Rosh Chodesh, which it is today, after at Maariv, after you said Baruch Hu, and you said the brachas before Shema, and then the brachas after Shema, and then you get to the very end and you say Kaddish just before Shemona Esrei, the Gabbai claps on the bimah and says Ya'aleh v'yoveh or Rosh Chodesh, that is not a hefsek. Kivin shel tzorech ha-tefillah. That is a need of the tefillah, and therefore it's not considered a hefsek. V'chein yochel lo'ma Baruch Hu l'hoitzi mi shelo shama v'le'haveh hefsek. And so too you can repeat and you can say Baruch Hu at that point again. Says the Mechaber, it's not considered a hefsek. Says the Ramah. V'ayin le'el siman samachtes ro'isi medaktikim na'agu la'amoid k'sha'imim hayutches psukim she'baruch Hashem la'olam. I've seen medaktikim, says the Ramah, people who stand when they say Baruch Hashem la'olam, u'minag yofu, and it's considered a wonderful custom, ki niskenu b'mokum tchilas yutches, because after all it was instituted in lieu of Shemona Esrei, as we'll see soon. And therefore, just like you stand for Shemona Esrei, it's appropriate to stand for Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen V'Amen. The Mishnah Berurah is going to take issue with that, as we'll see. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat and Dalet. So Be'en Gula da Arvis Tefillah, that you should not be mafsik between the Geula, the end of the bracha, and Shemona Esrei. Shegam ba'arvis mitzvah lismech geula tefillah, because there is a mitzvah to be somech, to juxtapose the geula to tefillah even in Maariv. Va'af hanoagin lo'ma, and even those who say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen, that's not considered the hefsek because it's tzorech tefillah. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat and Hey. Over Tur Messiah Bezeh, the Tur concludes, Mashenagin lahafsik b'psukin v'yiru einenu v'kadish. Why do we do that? Why is it that we add Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen? Lefi shebayomim harishonim, in days gone by, hayubotik nesiyas shelohem besodes, their shuls were in the fields. V'hayu yureim nis'ach sham ad zman tfilas arvis, and it was scary to wait there until night time, until Maariv. V'tiknu lema psukim elu sheyesh bam yudches haskaras kneged yudches brachas sheyesh b'tfilas arvis. And therefore, they sort of did away with Shemona Esrei in Maariv, and instead they instituted a very short tefillah, Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen, instead of Maariv, which has 18 brachas, 18 mentions of Hashem's name, V'niftarim b'kaddish, and then they say Kaddish, and then they're finished. And now that we daven Maariv again in shuls and the situation has changed, we're no longer davening in the fields. Lo nispatel minhag and the original minhag is not cancelled. However, you shouldn't add other things. And there is a custom for those people not to say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen. Now we can understand the words of the Mechaber. Now, if you take a look at footnote number 18, which is at the back of the Sefer, he says the following. Now, this is in the second paragraph. When do we say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen, and when do we not say it? So he says here in the back, V'haminhag be'eretz Yisrael, kosav Rabbi Chil Michal Tukuchinsky, sheloi la'omro, that the minhag in Eretz Yisrael is not to say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen. We're very familiar with that, and in Chutz La'aretz we do. Now, he says, because v'haisiv shekein nireh gam edivrei ha'Arizal, that is based on the writings of the Arizal not to say it in Eretz Yisrael. And then he adds here, Ubeshal is a Moshe, that Moshe adds, She'ulai nagu kein mishum she'be'eretz Yisrael tamidei hagrav tamidei hashulchan aruch harav shneim sovru shlei le'omram, etc. Even in Chutz La'aretz. And therefore, since the early Yishuv came about from the Talmidim of the Vilna Gaon and also the Shulchan Aruch Harav, who were both of the opinion not to say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen at all, even in Chutz La'aretz, therefore it sort of evolved that in Eretz Yisrael we have the minhag not to say Baruch Hashem la'olam amen v'amen. Now the question is, That roughly is the split. In Eretz Yisrael, the minhag is not to say it. In Chutz La'aretz, the minhag is to say it. So the obvious question is, what happens if you find that Ben Chutz La'aretz, a person finds himself in Eretz Yisrael, or vice versa? So he continues footnote 18 in the third paragraph. Or Ben Eretz Yisrael hanimtze b'Chutz La'aretz. An Israeli finds himself in Chutz La'aretz. Kosa b'shar shuvas igros Moshe she'ein tzarich la'amru v'yarich b'krishma. An Israeli who finds himself in Chutz La'aretz does not need to say Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen v'Amen, and rather, what should he do? He should say Shema more slowly, more kavana, be Maarich in Kriya Shema, she'ba'ofen zeh l'kol ha'deis ein tzarich lema p'sukim einu. Because if you're Maarich in Kriya Shema, then everyone agrees you don't need to say Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen v'Amen, like the Mishnah Berurah is going to say later on, B'Shem HaMogen Avram. And so too, the Lahiris Nosson says the same thing. However, Vosner writes that the minhag is even to say it for the Eretz Yisrael resident to say it when he happens to be in Chutz La'aretz. But I think the consensus seems to be, from my experience, like what people do, it seems to be like the Ramosha, i.e., that a Ben Eretz Yisrael who finds himself in Chutz La'aretz does not say Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen v'Amen. What about the other way around? Well, the Indian Ben Chutz La'aretz hanimtze b'Eretz Yisrael, a chutznik finds himself in Eretz Yisrael, kosav b'shal shuvas igros Moshe she'tzarich la'amram, that if you're in Eretz Yisrael you should say it. However, me'idach b'shal shuvas mishnah halachas b'tzel ha'chochma kosvu she'ein loymar, not to say it. Elim kein hatzibur mispala la'ad v'yaspik lo'omrim ad she'yisamu hatzibur, unless they're davening really slowly and you're ahead of the game and there is time, but the minhag seems to be not like that. So it seems to be, from my experience, that it's very much when in Rome, that those who in Eretz Yisrael don't say it, those in Chutz La'aretz do say it, and therefore a Ben Eretz Yisrael who finds himself in Chutz La'aretz doesn't, and a Ben Chutz La'aretz who finds himself in Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't say it. I think I just said that the right way around. Again, a Ben Eretz Yisrael who finds himself in Chutz La'aretz does say it, and a Ben Chutz La'aretz who finds himself in Eretz Yisrael does not say it. But again, there is different opinions exactly. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Katan Vov Ein lahafsik. So we said you shouldn't be mafsik between the ends, the Geula and Tefillah. To oisim sukim lehe mikra hefsik. But Baruch Hashem La'olam Amen v'Amen is not considered a hefsek, given the tzakinu la'omram havilo k'geula arichta, because it's considered like a geula arichta, just a prolonged geula, and therefore there's no hefsek whatsoever. Zayin tzorich hatfila v'lav dafka, so shouting out Ya'aleh v'Yavoy after Kaddish on Rosh Chodesh before Shemona Esrei is okay. It's a tzorich hatfila. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Zayin v'lav dafka likrei ulahachrish Rosh Chodesh shu deraisa, and it doesn't only apply to Rosh Chodesh, which of course is a deraisa, or is talamota, or to announce that, she'im yitu tzorech lachzor, because it's a fatal error. If you get the wrong thing, you have to sort of redo the Shemona Esrei. El afilu lahachriz ala nisim, shapir domi. Even to actually shout out ala nisim, which is not a fatal error. Because even if you forget ala nisim, you don't have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. To mikol makom hu tzorech tefillah, because at the end of the day it is a tzorech tefillah. But dafka b'makom zeh yochal lahafsik. And dafka here at the end of Kaddish, after Kaddish is said before Shemona Esrei, that's when you should be mafsik. Aval kashehu oimid b'berachas Kriya Shema or beina prokim also lahachrish shum davar, but not earlier, not when you're still in the brachas of Kriya Shema. You should not be mafsik then. Okay, loima baruchu the gam zehu tzorech hatfila. That's also allowed because that's also a tzorech hatfila. Sif Katan Tes. Now the Ramah said ayin le'el siman samach tes, says the Mishnah Berurah rotzolema desham bahagam avua the dafka ba'aris mekin lezeh avalo b'shachris. When can the Gabba announce Rosh Chodesh, Ya'aleh v'Yavoy, Ala Nisim, Talamota, Dafka Maariv after the Kaddish before Shemona Esrei, but not in Shachris? We're only Mekel when it comes to Maariv. Sif Katan Yud. Now, this is very interesting. The Ramah says it's a minhag yofa to stand when you say Baruch Hashem La'olam. Why? Because, he says, because it was instituted in lieu of Shemona Esrei, and therefore, just like you stand for Shemona Esrei, you should stand for Baruch Hashem La'olam, Amen v'Amen. However, says the Mishnah Berurah that many say that you should not stand. Why? Because you don't want to give the impression that you are being yotzei, your chiyuv of Shemona Esrei. Even though I'm davening with a tzibur. Sorry, I misread that. In other words, there are the Mishnah Berurah says that there are the Achronim say that you should not stand. Why? Because that might give the impression that you are davening Shemona Esrei and you're being Yotze your Shemona Esrei. Now, interestingly, in 25, he says, note 25 at the back of the Sefer, Ve'im ein ma'amid es raglov zelazeh. Sorry, ein matzmid es raglov zelazeh. But if you're standing in a way where your feet are not pressed next to each other, kosav eish la'avram, sheyochel la'imram gam b'amid. And then you can stand. Va'afim yamid misheponov klapim mizrach, even if you happen to be facing the mizrach. Now, interestingly, I remember the Rav of my shul, Robert Zatzal, he would always stand to Baruch Hashem Le'olam Amen V'Amen, no doubt based on this Ramah, who says it's a minhag yofa to stand, but he would always face the other way. He would face the Kehillah, not Mizrach, which very clearly showed that this is not Shemona Esrei. And I guess that way you get the best of both worlds. Okay, then the Mechaber, the Mishnah Berurah carries on. However, so, if, however, when you're davening with the tzibur, when you're davening with the tzibur and then you daven and you're saying the brachas of Krishma afterwards, maybe you came late or something, then you can say Baruch Hashem Le'olam standing, because clearly you've already davened Shemona Esrei and you're sort of saying you're making up the rest of Maariv later, and therefore that's not a concern that onlookers might think you're discharging your chiyuv Shemona Esrei because you've already davened. Okay. Kosim Morgan Avram B'Shem Rashal Sheyesh Lem Hoshienu Hashem LeYoshienu V'hu Pasuk V'Divrei Yomim V'lo Yomer Hoshienu Hashem LeKeyishenu D'im Kein Hu Meisef Ad Yud Ches Askaros. Because if you add that, then you're going to actually go to more than 18 Askaros, and therefore Chazal Masakin Dafka 18 connected the Shemona Esrei, the Yud Ches Brachas. Okay, we'll leave it there.